Okay. I've been so excited about this, and naturally, because I've been so excited, I've been overthinking it all. When there's an idea that's really important to you, you kind of want to get it right when you deliver it to other people. Regardless, thank you for being here today. Your time is valuable. And believe it or not, my goal is not to add more stuff to your to do list. The whole nature of this training is to help you subtract as much as possible from it. I'd like to send you away with some fresh clarity. I'd like to help you have greater confidence in where you're headed and what you want next. I hope this concept of growth by subtraction also does for you what it's done for me, which is it brings a sense of relief because you finally know that it's okay to stop doing some things. So here's the core premise. This is the punchline. I hate it when you show up at some sort of training and they tease the punchline the whole time. This is it. This is the punchline. I'm just going to unpack this. Complex businesses don't scale, so subtraction accelerates growth. What we're going to cover? Well, I'm not going to read my own bullet points, but this is what we're going to cover. All of this really is about the root problem. So that's what I want to spend the next little while unpacking for you. I will not convince you of some of you that this is true. I recognize that going in. Like, I hope this resonates with more of you rather than less, but I'm not going to convince you all, and that's okay. I just want to give you food for thought. So let's start with what I hear about most often. So I talk to lots of freelancers and consultants, dozens every week, and every single one talks about growth. Now, growth doesn't always mean more income. It can mean that. Growth just as often means, hey, I want to have more time, more spaciousness in my calendar. Growth can mean exciting, impactful work. It can mean that sense of satisfaction when you look at your life as a whole and your life is aligned with what you always envisioned. Like, that's growth. Yes, my life looks the way I've always wanted it to look. Growth certainly does not mean burnout. It doesn't mean unsustainable habits. It doesn't mean a crushing density in your calendar or being on a hamster wheel of deadlines. That's not what growth means. It means different things to different people, but it definitely doesn't mean feeling crushed by the density of your work. Growth definitely means more enjoyment. I've never talked to a single freelancer or consultant who said, hey, I want less joy in my day to day. So, all of us, whether we fully realize it or not, are looking for more enjoyment in our work. And that is often what we mean by growth, whether we use that word enjoyment or not. In fact, for those of you who are like me and you've been so used to being responsible for so long, you can actually feel guilty about enjoyment, but that's a separate training. We won't go there as much today, okay? All this begs the question, why don't our businesses grow the way we want? We want to grow them. Why aren't they growing? Several reasons come to mind. The first one is not actually the case for most of us. It is we don't put in enough effort. Every once in a while, I'll talk to someone who honestly, they're just not putting in enough effort. That's seldom the case, though. More often, we're either putting effort into the wrong things, or this is the most common reason, it's hard to actually see what the right things are because we're battling so much complexity. Like, what gets in the way of the growth that wants to happen, the growth that we want? Complexity. I'm not going to ask any of you to raise your hands, but I can speak from personal experience. I've had a very complex business for too long. So this begs the question, why are our businesses so complex? Well, again, I'll speak more from personal experience, but I think a lot of you will be the same. We're multi talented, we're versatile, our skills have wide application. Meanwhile, or I don't think this is just me, but sometimes you need money. You got bills to pay, and the last time I checked, I could not trade like tomatoes for electricity. Maybe your city is different than mine, but you find yourself needing money, and so you say yes to a client who wants something that's maybe just 1 or 2 degrees removed from your normal project, right? So you keep saying yes, and over time, the business kind of grows up organically around you, and you end up with this business that is dense and it's sprawling and it's complex. Love this quote from W. Edwards Deming. Also, kind of hate it, feel personally attacked by it, right? Every system is perfectly designed to get the results it gets. So, if you've got a sprawling, organic, complex business, well, what results do you get from that? Doing any one thing becomes more time consuming, more difficult, more stressful. Everything from marketing to sales to fulfillment and accounting, there's friction. There's so much effort required in all of it. It's no wonder that we get so exhausted because we have to fight our businesses constantly. We have to fight the complexity constantly. In my mind, it's like dragging a mutant octopus uphill. And I realize that's like mixing metaphors with an overgrown garden and an octopus, but it's this like thing that I have to fight constantly. So this begs the question, well, why don't we do something about the complexity? And I would say we try. We've got a lot of options in terms of what we could work on at any given time. Should you fix your pricing? Should you finally launch that new strategy offer you've had in mind? Should you get serious about LinkedIn? Again, should you update the old website? Should you hire a VA and create that breathing room you've been dreaming about? Surprise, a complex business makes the decision making around business development complex. It's not always easy to see what the priorities should be. So, again, I'll just speak from personal experience. You can have all the ambition, all the work ethic, all the talents, all the ideas, all the intelligence, all the resilience. And yet, if you're wrestling with all that complexity, if dragging that octopus uphill is what's required to grow the business, then you may not have a lot to show for all that effort you've put in my case, for like years, right? So, okay, the best way to combat complexity would be to just commit to doing one thing. Why don't we commit to doing one thing fully, like wholeheartedly? Well, we struggle to commit because we're often not sure what we want. Or maybe it's more true to say we want multiple things. Is it financial success and more money? Is it a sense of spaciousness in your days? No one having control of your calendar? Is it working on interesting projects with good people? I mean, some days I want to see that my contribution is making a big difference in people's lives. Is it a deeper sense of peace and contentment with your life? I mean, wouldn't it be wonderful to have a quiet mind and not feel behind all the time? So we have competing desires, which means that what we're optimizing for changes from one day to the next. The fact is, like all those things I just listed out, I personally want all those things. And what I want most just varies based on the day. Some days I want really exciting work that requires my full engagement. And then some days I want a calendar without a single meeting in it. And I don't want to talk to anyone. Maybe you know what I mean. We have these competing desires. So it's hard to know some days whether we're optimizing for higher income, optimizing for more time freedom. That's why we struggle to commit. Like, what am I optimizing for? Some paths would help me optimize for income, other paths, impact, other paths, satisfaction, other paths, time freedom. Changes based on the day. Now we're getting to the heart of the matter because all of that struggle to commit to one thing in my life came down to one false belief, which is I believe that I needed certainty to move forward. So I was operating out of this belief that I would, if I waited, I'd eventually feel certain about what I wanted most. And then I could fully commit. And then I could sort of start to resolve the complexity problem. And that is a false belief. I'll explain a little bit more why that's a false belief in a second. But this is just more true that you don't need certainty to move forward. You need just enough confidence. In fact, we make the majority of our commitments in life in the absence of certainty. So when you leave
I'll
the
get a pen
doctor
kind of
with a good
friendly.
report, you aren't
Some
certain that there's nothing wrong. When you get into your car to drive from point A to point B, you aren't certain that you won't get in a car wreck. When you go on a date, you aren't certain that the two of you will be together forever. You know, when you picked a college or a hometown, you weren't certain you were making the best possible choice out of all the choices. The same is true in your freelance business. Like, you don't need absolute certainty, you need just enough confidence. I want to go deeper into this because it's really, really important. This is kind of the crux of everything we're talking about today. False belief in certainty versus embracing just enough confidence. I want to talk about two of my favorite scenes ever from a couple of movies. Okay. First one, Two Towers, J.R.R. Tolkien. So I won't ruin the plot, but basically, the good guys are waiting at this fortress called Helm's Deep. They're besieged, and the leaders were told by this wizard named Gandalf that Gandalf would come on the fifth day. So it's like, look for me at dawn on the fifth day. And so Gandalf on the fifth day shows up on this white horse. And in my mind, this is the perfect image of waiting for certainty. Like, if we wait, then a wizard on a white horse is going to show up and save me. And then I contrast that waiting for certainty with a scene from another favorite movie, The Sandlot. Again, I'll try not to ruin the plot. That may not be possible, but Smalls borrows a ball signed by Babe Ruth from his stepdad. Benny, who you're looking at right now, Benny the Jet Rodriguez, hits a home run and sends that signed ball over the fence into the backyard where this giant dog they call Beast lives. They're all afraid of Beast. When they find out that the ball was signed, of course, they talk to Smalls about how stupid he was. But eventually, Benny makes a commitment. He's afraid of the beast. He is not sure what's going to happen, but he ultimately commits to jumping over the fence. And in this climactic scene in the backyard, he's in this stare down contest with the beast. And he ended up there because he said, I'm going to get that ball. And I love those two images side by side because like, this is life and this is business. Are you waiting for certainty to save you? Are you waiting for something external to kind of hit you upside the head? Or do you make a commitment with incomplete information, despite your fear, despite having made mistakes in the past, despite not knowing how things are going to unfold? So, like, Benny doesn't know what's going to happen. That's what's so cool about the movie, and also why it's true to life. You make the commitment and you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know all the steps in the path. And so, if you're waiting to feel certain even about all the steps in the path, you'll be waiting forever. So, what's craziest about all of this is that certainty isn't a predictor of success. Commitment is. If you don't ever take action, if you don't ever commit because you're waiting on certainty, like,
That's
you're going to be
okay.
waiting around forever. Um, and so the other side of that, right, is like we don't need certainty. We don't need Gandalf. We need to be like Benny. We need to find just enough confidence to commit. And here's the thing that is craziest to me out of all this that I've experienced and that I don't like. Clarity comes after commitment, not before it. You commit, and then the path opens up. Benny jumps over the fence, and then he starts making things up as he goes, finds the help that he needs. Unfortunately, this is true in my experience of entrepreneurship. You have just enough information to say, what do I like more? What do I like less? What do I believe in more? What do I believe in less? What am I more confident in? You find just enough confidence and then you commit. And then the path opens up. Now, I can't say that I've always done that. Like, you could have an honest conversation with my wife, and she would say, yeah, Austin has spent a lot of time waiting for certainty. And then, meanwhile, I've seen friends, I've seen other entrepreneurs who were just faster with making their commitments, who weren't waiting on Gandalf. I watched them take off in part because they had clarity, and they had that clarity because they committed. So here's the $1,000,000 question. If you assumed you were never going to be certain about what you want next, about what's going to happen with AI, about whether your market was going to dry up, about what you want to be when you grow up, y'all, I'm 43. I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I still don't know. I just know, what do I like more and what do I like less? Do I have just enough confidence to commit based on what do I enjoy a little bit more and what do I enjoy a little bit less? Still need to pay attention to what the market actually wants. Maybe I could hand paint garden gnomes and just go all in on that. I mean, what the market wants, that's a factor here, right? But what would you commit to right now if you knew you were never going to be certain? You take certainty out of the equation. You stop waiting until dawn on the fifth day for Gandalf to show up. I think we have to answer this question for ourselves. Because if you don't make some drastic changes, if you keep using the same system, I'm going to try to keep a straight face. Um, you keep getting the same results. Like, call me professor of obvious. I was like, what is like the counterpart to that quote I shared from W. Edwards Deming earlier? And it's this, right? If you keep using the same system, you keep getting the same results. And you can't get a different system by just adding net new offers, net new services, by piling more on top, by increasing complexity. I saw this tweet from Caitlin and I thought, that's it. Addition just adds to the complexity. You have to commit to growth by subtraction. So if you want a business you don't need a vacation from, stop waiting for certainty, fully commit to a path forward, knowing that clarity comes after commitment, cut what you enjoy less, grow by subtraction. So I told you, I shared the punchline with you at the beginning. I did. This isn't one of those trainings where there's a lot of sort of smoke and mirrors. I'm in the middle of this process myself. I've been in the middle of it for at least a couple of years now. And I can't unsee it. I thought about including all of the examples from freelancers and solopreneurs and entrepreneurs who were saying things like, yeah, when we like eliminated 90% of the stuff in our business, we really started to grow. I've seen these examples everywhere. It's like someone saying, don't think about like a pink polka dotted elephant. And now that's all you can think about, right? I can't unsee this. And I want to tell everybody about it. And it's like, it seems like it shows up in every book that I read now. And I know that's just sort of confirmation bias. I recognize it's cognitive bias, right? But I wish every freelancer and consultant would buy into this because I just don't think complexity is the path forward. I tried the complexity thing for 14 years. And now that I'm 2 years into this, like, strategic subtraction or strategic simplicity phase of my business, I'm like, what took me? Why didn't anyone tell me this 16 years ago? Who knows? I want to give you some exercises because some of you may actually start thinking he's right. And again, I don't need you to think I'm right. I actually just think this is kind of a design principle of reality. I'll actually skip ahead a slide. I grew up in my grandmother's garden helping her. She grew up on a farm in rural Tennessee. She always had this amazing garden. And I loved her. I still love her. She's 91. She's one of my heroes. I got to spend last weekend with her. And she explained to me that you'll get more tomatoes if you pinch off suckers. And suckers are the little sprouts that grow up between like in like the crook of like the main vines, main branches. And if you let them grow, they just siphon off nutrients and resources. And so, like, the plant is smart enough to send resources all over. If you don't pinch off the suckers, all of these underperforming or less promising shoots and stems are just going to take resources away and you don't get as many tomatoes. So, if you want to grow more tomatoes, if you want a bigger yield, what do? You pinch off suckers. And this is what I mean by seeing it everywhere. Like, this principle is in nature. I've heard it a lot about peach trees, especially in Georgia. You have to proactively prune them every single year. And it's counterintuitive to say pruning increases yield. It's just true, though. So I really do think it's important to look to your own enjoyment to help you grow by subtraction. So start by taking inventory. This won't take you long. I hope this won't even feel like a task, but just write down all of your projects, all of your services, all of your offers, products, ventures, commitments, and responsibilities. Write it all down and identify what you enjoy more. I know some of you who are also in the I'm responsible camp. I'm still like detoxing from that camp, right? It's like I have 3 kids. My wife will be like, how was your day? And I'm like, I don't know. Ask me on the weekend. I just don't ask some of these questions about myself. It almost feels self indulgent, self centered, whatever. Think about what you enjoy more and what you enjoy less. Identify what you enjoy more, and then you will find it pretty easy to see the suckers. Like, which things that not only do you not enjoy, they also aren't super profitable. There doesn't seem to be a huge demand. Like, what do you need to eliminate so that more resources and nutrients can go to all the other stuff? So take inventory and just circle the things that you actually enjoy. Imagine that. Then once you have that inventory, make a subtraction list. In my freelance cake community, this is the challenge in September. Like, I want everybody to do this who's a member. Why? Because you're freeing up time, you're freeing up attention. You can't give attention that you don't have. So if you really want to put more attention into the 1 or 2 things that are most promising, where's it going to come from? If you want to do a new experiment, if you want to pivot some new direction, where's the time going to come from? You have to simplify before you can scale. You have to reclaim time and attention. So what will you stop doing? What's going on your don't do list? What will you start saying no to? And this is going to hurt. I promise you, this is going to hurt. Because we got into the complexity position by saying yes all the time and thinking, well, I have to. So there will come a time where if you're truly going to embrace this principle of growth by subtraction, you're going to have to say no to something you feel like you can't afford to say no to. We'll talk about more in a sec why it's important to surround yourself with people who are doing the same thing. We need to do this in community. What will you deliberately ignore? I read Greg McCown's book Essentialism years ago, and that honestly is where this journey started for me. He shared this design principle from an German industrial designer named Dieter Rams. And the design principle is less but better. And McCown, who's basically wrote an entire book around that idea of less but better, again, this principle is everywhere. But I'm reading this book and I thought, can I give myself permission to score a C minus at best on responding to text messages? Like, will I give myself permission to be very average in how I show up in certain places in my life? Because if I'm trying to be excellent everywhere, that's exhausting. But if I gave myself permission to get an average or a failing grade in a few areas, I'd free up all that attention, all that bandwidth that I could use elsewhere. So, what will you deliberately ignore? Okay. So, what are you cutting? Make your subtraction list. Next, you have to commit. And that missing period is driving me crazy. Anyway, eventually you've got to be Benny the Jet Rodriguez. You've got to jump over the fence. You've got to commit. And it's going to be scary and it's going to be counterintuitive. You're like, I'm just not sure that what Austin said is true. Like, we have formed habits that perpetuate complexity. I did. I still have some of them. We are addicted to complexity and chaos, right? So it's going to take effort to actually embrace like an ethic of simplicity in your life, a principle of growth by subtraction. It helps a lot to have a one-page plan. Notice that it's one page. You can't create a complex plan to help you simplify. Like that would be a contradiction, right? And this makes me squirm every time I talk about a one-page growth roadmap. I'm like, no, we need at least like 3 or 4 pages. Can we just like squeak in some extra stuff? 3 priorities, 5 action steps for each one, and the rest of the path unfolds while you're walking it. Clarity comes after commitment. You won't know how to do some of the things that you need to do to simplify your business. You won't know how. But if you commit to walking that path, the how will become apparent along the way, and the right people, the right who's will show up too. It's crazy. It's crazy. Okay, this is an exercise as much as, again, something that I've experienced. I don't think this is easy because I think most of our businesses and our habits are actually built around this belief that addition solves problems, not subtraction. You need people around you who actually believe the same things and are practicing the same things. And so I want to invite you to find those people if you don't have them already. Like if you don't already have people in your life who are supporting you on a journey of building a business you don't need a vacation from by subtracting all the stuff that is dead weight. Maybe this is a horrible idea, but turning the mutant octopus into a beautiful porpoise probably took the metaphor too far. But um, let me walk you through what my community is all about. And then if you want to apply, there are a couple of bonuses. You don't have to. So I'll try to be quick with this, and that will leave some time for questions or just scathing critique. If you're like, this whole idea of growth by subtraction is ridiculous, I'm like, more power to you. Um, yeah, are you surrounding yourself with high caliber people who really get you, who understand the challenges of this path? We all have friends that are wonderful people. They've chosen professions. They're attorneys and engineers and teachers and
Sorry, I'm just,
doctors
I don't,
and baristas. And when we tell them what we do, they look puzzled
puzzled.
and they try very hard to understand, but they don't fully get it. Um, so, have you surrounded yourself with people who can give you great advice? I do think it's important that communities like this be behind a paywall. People pay attention when they pay, they show up at their level of investment. I also think if you're going to surround yourself with people, there needs to be psychological safety. Like you need to feel like you can actually be honest and vulnerable. And then you need those other people to not distract you. You need them to inspire you. You see them focusing on what matters, you see them finishing what matters. It's called positive spillover. You can look at it sometime. There have been studies in all these different domains. One of the best examples of this that I've found, there's some studies that go with it. It's your freshman year in college and your roommate's studious. What happens to you? Well, you're probably a little bit more studious than you might have been otherwise. Or your roommate is a big partier and is always inviting you to go to the parties. Well, you may party a little bit more, right? So, have you surrounded yourself with people who are going to push you and spur you on? This matters everywhere in life. You can get this other places than the freelance kit community. It doesn't have to be this community, but surround yourself with people where it's positive spillover, not negative spillover. Um, I do think the fact that the freelance kit community is for advanced freelancers matters. I get that feedback a lot. It's not a community for beginners, and it helps the more seasoned folks feel safe and they can show up and ask questions that are more advanced. So that's a big part of the character or the nature of the community is it's pros talking to pros and giving each other advice. You get access to the private circle community. It's not on Facebook. Nothing against Facebook, but maybe a little something against Facebook. So it's a private community. There's a forum. You can get feedback quickly. That seems to be really important to people. If you have a question about a proposal you're sending out, if you have a question about a sticky situation with a client, you need advice quickly. You probably don't want to go to Reddit. Who do you ask so that you can trust the advice they give you because you know they're smart, they're capable, they've seen similar issues, right? So, yeah, positive spillover. I'll also say I can kind of be silly. I like laughing. Like, we don't have to be serious all the time. And I think that's kind of bled over into the community where we also have fun. We whistle while we work. Freelancing is lonely and isolating enough. The last thing that I want is a community where it's just full of gravity. It's like, yeah, we're going to all get our work done, but we're going to have fun while we're doing it. A lot of folks have been very complimentary of the resource library. I actually discourage new members from getting in there too soon. There's so much that it can be overwhelming. I would actually recommend that you create a growth roadmap first and then only go hand pick the resources that will help you with your growth roadmap instead of getting distracted by all of the other shiny things that are in there. Every week we spend time together live. I actually missed the community's live co-working session, which always happens on Thursday, because I was giving this training. We also do group coaching, which looks like ask me anything sessions, which I call office hours, and also hot seat sessions. So hot seat sessions, we take one person, we go deep with something that is going on in their business for about 30 minutes. But there's a lot of learning that happens. You may have experienced this where you listen to someone else talking about their problems and they're helping you solve problems you hadn't fully articulated yet. So it's learning by osmosis. That's a big part of it. Um, but I will say the community isn't just about farting around. Like, if you join a community and then the community doesn't help you have breakthroughs and hit your growth goals, you're just going to leave. So ultimately, joining a community like this is giving yourself a financial incentive to pay attention, to show up, to get your work done, to get the breakthroughs and grow your business. So yeah, that's what we're really about. That's why we do co-working every week instead of just hanging out. Like, we've got work to do, but let's do it together. So it's 99 bucks a month, but you pay for 12 months at a time. If you and you have to apply. I meant what I said earlier about like kind of being selective. If this fits you, then great. If you're not sure, I would encourage you to apply anyway. Take a screenshot, pull out your phone, use the camera to scan the QR code. You can obviously type in the URL, but if you apply by Sunday, then you get a couple of bonuses. One-on-one strategy session with me. I would love to go into growth by subtraction with you and talk about what you need to cut, what should and should not go into your growth roadmap, and also morning marketing habit. I charge 149 bucks for it. If you join or sorry, apply by Sunday, then you get that. So I think those two bonuses are pretty cool. They'll go away on Monday. And also, final thing, and then we'll get into Q&A. You lock in your pricing for life. So even if I raise the price for the community later, you keep paying the same price month after month, year after year. So I would encourage you to apply, and that's it. I did it in about 40 minutes, which is awesome. I'm going to click out of this